The origin of an unstoppable mindset before the world ever called him the $300 billion man, before the headlines, before the empires, before the numbers even made sense to anyone. He was just a kid with nothing. No privilege, no connections, not even a clear path to follow. What he had, what truly separated him from millions of others, was a mindset forged in environments built to break people. He did not grow up around success. He grew up around struggle. He grew up watching people settle, watching people complain about life instead of changing it, watching people shrink their dreams to match their circumstances. But instead of becoming like them, something inside him sparked, something small, something quiet at first, but powerful enough to rewrite his entire destiny. He made a decision early in his life that would become the foundation of everything he built. I refuse to live a normal life. The $300 billion man's journey didn't begin with money. It didn't begin with luck. It began with pressure, real pressure, the type that molds people into one of two things, a victim or a visionary. He chose the second. And what makes his story remarkable isn't that he reached unimaginable levels of wealth. It's that he came from a place where even imagining wealth felt impossible. He learned early that life does not reward talent alone. It rewards relentlessness. Every obstacle he faced became training. Every failure became a lesson. Every moment someone told him he couldn't do something became fuel. While others avoided challenges, he hunted them. While others quit after one setback, he pushed harder. While others wanted comfort, he wanted growth. People often assume billionaires are born different, but he wasn't born with advantages. He was born with a choice. And the choice he made was to never allow his circumstances to define his ceiling. He used to say, "Some people grow up waiting for opportunities. I grew up learning to build them." That mindset shaped everything. When he didn't have resources, he became resourceful. When he didn't have mentors, he studied the greatest minds in history. When he didn't have money, he learned how to turn ideas into income. He didn't sit around waiting for permission to start. He started with whatever he had, even if it wasn't much. There were moments when he had every reason to quit, every reason to take the easy route, every reason to accept an average life. But every time life pushed him down, he pushed back harder. Every time he hit a wall, he built a door through it. Every time fear whispered stop, ambition shouted louder. He wasn't motivated by money. Money came later. He was motivated by possibility, by breaking cycles. By proving that someone with zero advantages can still build an extraordinary life if they build an extraordinary mindset. Success didn't chase him. He chased success with an obsession that made other people uncomfortable. While his friends wasted weekends, he invested them. While others tried to impress, he tried to improve. While everyone else was trying to fit in, he was busy trying to stand out, and that's what created the man he became. Not the billions, not the business empire, not the headlines. It was the decision, made long before the world knew his name, that he would never settle for average, never bow to circumstances, and never let fear choose his future. The $300 billion man wasn't born unstoppable. He became unstoppable. And his mindset, the mindset built in the darkness long before the spotlight, became the foundation for every extraordinary thing he created. The $1 million habits that built a $300 billion empire long before the world attached a number to his name, long before he became the $300 billion man. He built something far more valuable than wealth. He built habits, not ordinary habits, not the kind people start on Monday and quit by Friday. These were the type of habits that quietly rewired his future, reshaped his identity, and transformed his potential into something unstoppable. People often ask how someone rises to a level most will never even imagine. They want the big secret, the magic strategy, the one hack that makes success easy, but he always laughed at that question because the truth is simple. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You rise to the level of your habits. His day didn't start when he woke up. It started the night before. He planned, he reviewed, he set intentions. He didn't walk into a day blindly. He walked into it prepared, aware, and hungry. Most people live reactively, waking up and letting life tell them what to do. He lived proactively. He told life what he wanted from it. The first habit he built was ruthless discipline, not the Instagram version, not the motivational poster version, real discipline, the kind where you do the work when you are tired, uninspired, stressed, or uncertain, the kind where you honor the commitments you made to yourself. He knew anyone could work hard when they felt good, but the person who works hard when they don't feel good, that person becomes unstoppable. The second habit was constant improvement. He became obsessed with getting 1% better, not once a week, not when it was convenient, but every single day. He read relentlessly. He studied the giants of history, business leaders, military strategists, philosophers, innovators. He didn't just consume information, he applied it. Tiny improvements compounded into massive advantages. And those advantages eventually built empires. The third habit was thinking big but acting small. Most people dream big but never execute. Others execute but dream too small. He did both. He dreamed in billions and worked in details. He never looked at a massive goal and said, "That's impossible." Instead, he said, "What is the first step?" And he took it immediately. The $300 empire wasn't built in giant leaps. It was built in millions of micro decisions, micro actions, and micro disciplines. The fourth habit was protecting his environment. He learned early that environment is not neutral. It is either pushing you forward or pulling you backward. He cut off negativity. He eliminated distractions. He refused to spend time with people who settled for average. His circle changed. His standards changed. His life changed. He surrounded himself with ambition, with hunger, with people who dreamed loudly and worked quietly. The fifth habit was relentless execution. No excuses, no delays, no "I'll start tomorrow." He lived by a simple rule: if it takes less than 5 minutes, do it now. If it matters, do it today. If it scares you, do it immediately. While others procrastinated, he built. While others hesitated, he launched. While others planned forever, he acted, corrected, improved, and scaled. And finally, the habit that tied everything together was unshakable self-belief. He didn't wait for permission. He didn't wait for validation. He didn't wait for the world to believe in him. He believed in himself first, and everything else followed. These habits weren't glamorous. They didn't make noise. They didn't bring applause, but they built something far more powerful: momentum. And momentum, once created, becomes a force nobody can stop. The $300 billion man didn't succeed because he was special. He succeeded because his habits were. And those habits, consistent, disciplined, and intentional, stacked on top of each other until they formed the foundation of a $300 legacy. The turning point, one decision that changed everything. Every extraordinary life has a moment, a split second, where everything changes. Not because the world changed, but because a mind changed. For the $300 billion man, that moment didn't happen in a boardroom. It didn't happen during some record-breaking deal. It didn't happen when he made his first million. It happened long before any of that, in a moment of frustration, exhaustion, and brutal honesty. At that time, he was just another dreamer trapped in an ordinary life. He was working long hours, stuck in a cycle that felt impossible to break. He was grinding, but not growing, working, but not progressing, surviving, but not living. And one night, after another day that looked exactly like the last, he sat alone in a tiny room staring at a future he knew he didn't want. Then it happened, the moment that would transform his destiny. He looked at himself and said the words that would become the turning point of his entire life: "No one is coming to save me. If I want a different life, I have to build it myself." Those words didn't come from confidence. They came from pain, from realizing that waiting was killing his potential, from understanding that comfort was his true enemy, from seeing that the life he wanted was not going to magically appear. It had to be created, step by step, with his own hands, mind, and discipline. In that moment, he made a decision that separated him from the millions of people who dream but never act. He chose full responsibility. Most people avoid responsibility because it feels heavy. But he embraced it because he understood something few ever do. Responsibility is the doorway to freedom. He stopped blaming circumstances. He stopped blaming the economy. He stopped blaming luck, timing, childhood, or other people. He decided that his future would be written by him and him alone. This decision created a mental shift so powerful that everything around him began to change. He didn't win the lottery. He didn't stumble into opportunity. He simply changed who he was on the inside, and the outside world eventually had no choice but to follow. From that day, he started acting like the person he wanted to become, not the person he currently was. When he was broke, he started thinking like someone who was building wealth. When he had nothing, he started behaving like someone who was creating something. When he felt lost, he acted like someone who was already on the path. This wasn't delusion, it was alignment. The turning point wasn't a lucky break. It was a mindset break, a fracture between who he was and who he was becoming. He started showing up earlier, working smarter, studying more intensely, building skills relentlessly, removing anything and anyone that wasn't aligned with his future. He stopped chasing validation and started chasing mastery. He stopped seeking approval and started seeking results. He stopped waiting for opportunities and started creating them. Slowly at first, then suddenly, life began to respond. People think the $300 billion man's success began with a business idea or a market opportunity. They're wrong. It began with a choice, a decision to never again live life on autopilot, a decision to stop being a passenger and take the driver's seat, a decision to turn his frustrations into fuel and his fears into focus. That decision was the spark. Everything else, the wealth, the empire, the global impact, was just a consequence. The truth is this: your turning point only comes after you decide you're done living below your potential. And that's exactly what he did. In one moment, with one decision, he stopped being average and started becoming the $300 billion man. The $300 billion framework, how he creates wealth on demand. When people hear the title, the $300 billion man, they imagine someone with superhuman intelligence, rare talent, or some secret formula hidden from the world. But the truth is far more practical and far more powerful. His success didn't come from a magic trick. It came from a framework, a way of thinking so sharp, so strategic, and so scalable that wealth became a byproduct of how he operated. His wealth didn't happen by accident. It happened because he built a system where wealth was the natural result. The first pillar of his framework was understanding value at a deeper level than anyone else. While most people think money comes from hard work, he knew money comes from one thing: solving valuable problems, and the bigger the problem, the bigger the reward. He trained himself to look at the world differently. Where others complained, he observed. Where others felt frustrated, he saw opportunity. He developed the habit of asking one question everywhere he went: what problem is not being solved here? This single question made him billions. The second pillar was mastering leverage, not the financial kind, at least not at first. He understood the most powerful forms of leverage are people, technology, systems, and media. Instead of trying to do everything alone, he focused on building machines. Machines that could operate without him, machines that could scale infinitely. While most people sell their time, he learned to multiply it. He saw leverage not as an option, but as the foundation of modern wealth. He didn't hustle harder, he scaled smarter. The third pillar of his framework was using time as an asset, not an enemy. Most people think short term. Most people want quick money. Most people want results now. He was different. He played a long-term game with long-term patience and long-term strategy. He invested in trends before the world understood them. He built positions before markets recognized their value. He focused on exponential opportunities: AI, digital infrastructure, global distribution networks, automation, and data. He didn't predict the future, he prepared for it. The fourth pillar was risk management, but not the kind you hear in textbooks. He approached risk differently. He believed risk was not something to fear, it was something to understand. His rule was simple: take risks small enough to survive, but big enough to change your life. He didn't gamble, he calculated. He tested small, learned fast, scaled big. If something failed, it was a lesson. If something succeeded, it became an engine. This approach allowed him to win consistently, while others lost everything on a single bad decision. The fifth pillar was positioning. He understood that money flows to those who stand at the intersection of demand and innovation. He didn't chase saturated markets. He positioned himself in emerging ones. He wasn't trying to be better than everyone else in an old game. He was trying to be first in a new one. That's why he entered industries right before they exploded. Timing wasn't luck, it was pattern recognition. The sixth pillar was scalable leadership. He knew he couldn't build a $300 billion empire alone, so he built leaders. He created a culture where excellence was normal, where innovation was expected, and where ownership was rewarded. He didn't recruit employees. He recruited believers, people who saw the vision, felt the mission, and moved with urgency. And the final pillar, the one that elevated all others, was relentless curiosity. He refused to assume he knew enough. He questioned everything. He studied trends, human behavior, psychology, markets, and technology. He adapted faster than competitors. He evolved faster than industries. He grew faster than problems. This framework, value, leverage, time, risk, positioning, leadership, curiosity, became the blueprint for creating wealth repeatedly, intentionally, and predictably. This is how he became the $300 billion man. And this is how he creates wealth on demand, the blueprint for you, what you can copy today. The most powerful part of the $300 billion man's story isn't the wealth he built, it's the blueprint he left behind. A blueprint that doesn't require genius, luck, or perfect timing. A blueprint anyone can start following today if they're willing to adopt the mindset, discipline, and strategic thinking that transformed his life. Because here's the truth, you might not become the next $300 billion man, but you can become the greatest version of yourself, and that is far more important. The first part of the blueprint is identity shift. Before you build a business, before you chase money, before you try to change your life, you must change your identity. He always said, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. If you see yourself as average, you will live an average life. If you see yourself as someone capable of impact, discipline, and greatness, your actions begin to align with that identity. Start acting like the future you before you become them. Your identity must lead your actions, not the other way around. The second part of the blueprint is skill stacking. The $300 billion man didn't become wealthy through one skill. He combined skills, communication, leadership, analysis, marketing, negotiation, and execution. You don't need to master everything. You need to become dangerously good at a small group of high-value skills that work together. One skill opens a door. Multiple skills build an empire. The third part is obsessive consistency. Success isn't built in big moments. It's built in tiny decisions repeated daily without fail. While everyone else looks for motivation, he relied on routine. While others waited for the right moment, he created the moment. Your future changes when your standards change. Decide today that missing days, skipping work, and procrastinating are no longer part of your identity. The fourth part is environment engineering. He became very clear about one thing: you cannot grow in a place designed to keep you small. You cannot become disciplined around undisciplined people. You cannot think big around people who fear risk. You cannot win big when surrounded by victims, complainers, and excuse makers. Your environment is not just a background, it is a force. And until you change your environment will shape you. You need to surround yourself with ambition, with urgency, with energy that pushes you higher. The fifth part is learning to see opportunity the way he did. Most people scroll, most people consume, most people complain, but the $300 billion man observed. He looked for problems people avoided. He looked for inefficiencies, frustrations, gaps, and pain points. Every business he built came from noticing something others ignored. If you want wealth, train your eyes to see problems, and your mind to ask, how can I solve this better? The sixth part of the blueprint is execution without fear. Not reckless action, bold action. Fear slows 99% of people down. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of loss. He understood the greatest risk in life is not taking one. You grow by acting, learning, adjusting, improving. You shrink by hesitating. You do not build confidence and then act. You act first and confidence follows. The seventh part is thinking long term. The $300 billion man wasn't trying to get rich next week. He was building foundations that would last decades. He invested time into skills, relationships, systems, and opportunities that compound over years. If you want to change your life, think beyond the moment. Build something today that your future self thanks you for every single day. And the final part, the one that ties this blueprint together, is unyielding belief in your potential. He didn't become the $300 billion man because life was easy. He became him because he refused to quit. He refused to settle. He refused to play small. This is the blueprint. Adopt it, apply it, and your future will not just change, it will transform. At the end of this journey, when you look at the life of the $300 billion man, you begin to realize something extraordinary. His story was never just about money. It was about possibility. It was about proving that greatness is not reserved for the chosen few. It's available to anyone willing to choose it. From the beginning, he didn't have advantages. He didn't have extraordinary gifts. He wasn't born into wealth, status, or privilege. What he did have was a mindset that refused to be limited by circumstance. He understood that if life wasn't going to hand him a map, he would draw one himself. That's where his story began, not with wealth, but with fire, a fire to rise above, to rewrite his life, and to create a future no one in his world had ever imagined. He built habits that most people avoid because they require discomfort, discipline, and sacrifice. While the world chased shortcuts, he chased mastery. While others waited for motivation, he created momentum. The difference between average and exceptional is often invisible, hidden in daily habits, silent hours, and quiet discipline. He embraced them all. Then came the turning point, the moment where he looked at his life and realized no one was coming to rescue him. He stopped waiting and started building. That single decision separated the man he used to be from the legend he would become. Because change never begins with money, opportunity, or timing. It begins with a decision to stop living small and start living with intention. From that decision, he built a framework, a system for creating wealth, value, and impact. He learned how to spot problems, solve them at scale, and leverage technology, people, and time. His success wasn't luck, it was architecture, a structure built with strategy instead of hope, a system designed for expansion, for scale, for multiplication. A system replicable by anyone willing to think bigger, act smarter, and move faster. And finally, he left behind a blueprint that doesn't require $300 billion to start, a blueprint that doesn't require a perfect background, a perfect plan, or perfect timing. A blueprint built on identity, skill, consistency, environment, opportunity, action, long-term thinking, and belief. The same blueprint you can begin applying today, because the real message behind the $300 billion man is this: your story is still being written. You are one decision away from a different life, one habit away from a different future, one opportunity away from a different level, one mindset shift away from a breakthrough. He didn't rise because he was destined to rise. He rose because he decided to. And if you choose the same level of responsibility, the same level of discipline, the same level of belief in your own potential, then your life can transform in ways you can't even imagine yet. The $300 billion man wasn't a myth. He wasn't magic. He wasn't chosen, he was committed, he was intentional, he was relentless, and if you choose to be the same, your story won't just change, it will redefine everything you once believed was possible.